Hey, well, welcome to the Dream Labs. Dr. Contrast live here. I just said I'd take a quick moment and just want a little announcement here. I'm going a day early, obviously. I've got some travel plans I have to take care of tomorrow. I'll be out of the office on Thursday, Friday. So I thought I'd just kind of pull in here and do a very quick little study on like a phase 2 system of wristwatches that we started last Thursday. Interesting to me, last Thursday we went through a whole series of just some ballpoint pen plan view studies of watch fascia graphics for the benefit of just looking at maybe the possibility of we have a traditional horizontal band, we have a vertical band, but there's not a lot of variation in theme out there. So I thought it'd be kind of nice to just kind of lay down some potential abstractions or discussions or elevations, plan view studies of what these new faces could look like. Looking at graphics, very simple in some cases, but we went through a whole variety of variations here last Thursday. And in the end of it all, I thought, it'd be kind of nice to go back in and maybe pick a couple of these things and put them into perspective, see what the surfaces are doing, because there's a lot of intrigue in terms of what can be done, material changes, and matters like that can really influence some of the forms being generated now in that marketplace. So I just want to walk you through what we did last Thursday very briefly here. It was interesting that we started out with a series of just, by the way, these are all ballpoint pen sketches with a little bit of color added, but it's primarily all ballpoint pen. And before I begin describing what we were looking at here, I thought it was very interesting too that one of the things I really like to really stress in going through some of the Twitch programs and some of the streaming devices is the value of doing some really lucid, quick sketches and not being so calculated, not being so perfect with what we try to attempt to do. I think that's absolutely essential. And again, these sketches notice how very lucid they are. They're very, they're controlled, but at the same time, there's a lot of spontaneity in them. And hey, Brad, how are you? Good to see you. I can attend this lesson, though I tend to watch your YouTube. Hey, very good. Thanks, Brad. I hope you're doing well. And thank you for tuning in. And we'll stay in touch here, obviously. And so good to hear from you. Take care of yourself and hope you have a good time. Hey, how are you? Hi, David. How are you? Good to see you, David. Thanks for joining in here today. Again, just a little bit of an overview for both of you. Again, last Thursday we did a little exploratory stuff on some watch faces in the plan view. And I think the stress we were trying to get across on last Thursday's presentation was something extremely simple, and that is how valuable it is to get into some very loose generated sketches. In other words, sometimes we get so calculating and so finite that we lose some of the drama of exploring certain things and making mistakes. And I've said this before, oftentimes a mistake factor opens up the door to do some really neat stuff in terms of converting it into something that's a little bit more applicable and as time moves on. So I'm going to walk you through some of these sketches here, and the purpose of today's stream is to take some of these ideas and put them in some perspective, a little bit of tone to it, and I'll be working with Prismacolor pencil, a little bit of marker, and we'll go through some things here in a few moments once I go through the process here. This is the first page we did, looking at rectangular forms and some very round shapes and the like. So there was number one. Let's go through these guys very quickly. Second phase of getting into some more elaborate shapes and studies and forms. And again, very rectangular, traditional strap type, hexagonal, octagonal pieces, for example, and then go back to hexagon and just breaking up the shape as it being so predictable and putting the fascia inside that format, but just taking a chance and saying, this could be an interesting development here to kind of move things away from the conventional, the speaker systems, sound devices, and a timepiece. The compass may be embodied in that, but again, a different shape and format, what we're looking at here to go through the process. So that was the second one we did. And the third plate we did was going a little further with some of the exploratory work here, getting into some like a little X pattern or some sort of a cross section with different systems on the end caps. And again, sound and some dialing systems and the like. And even here, for example, doing like a vehicle gauging, so like a cluster of some sort, putting that in some sort of a format. Different form again, going back to some of that round shape. And again, bottom line was, what happens if you take a chance to go outside the box a little bit and begin to make some changes in the overall shape systems here to work with here. So that was an intro, for example, what we did last Thursday. And again, as I said at the end of last Thursday's program, I thought it was really interesting to say, there's some things here that we might want to look at in terms of going into perspective. So let me get rid of this batch, and I'll bring in some studies we did here. What I did ahead of time was go back and look at a series, put a little bit of background in here, and I'm going to convert some of these sketches that you've seen in that first series of plates into some very quick pencil sketches and do a little bit of tone work in here. But I think I still want to stress, when I go through this, watch how everything comes together very quickly and extremely rapidly without an awful lot of detail, kind of focusing where we need to, go back out again when we need to, and just to develop some shapes here. Hey, Brett, it's good to have you on board. Great to see you guys. Again, thank you so much, Brett, for joining in, even though we might see it a little bit later. Hope it's of some benefit to you. And again, David, always good to have you on board, so thank you. Let's go back and just start some of these sketches here. Let's kind of go loosely through this thing. Let's kind of go through it. And notice, just get some start here. Take it right through. Come back in. Let's get that round, that little facial graphic in place here. Let's go through here. Take that off the page. Bring that around. You get that insert piece started. Let's get a little bit of that beveled shape that's in here. Take that through and then end it just a bit. And again, let's come back and put a little recess in this thing. Again, notice real light, keeping it light until it's right. Just start in the sketch. Just bring it up off the page. And then we'll go back in and do some tone work here as we go. Let's get this upper piece in place. Let's put some wide night changes here. Let's put some weight in this thing. Apply that through. Come back in, pick up that end cap. Put this little reverse, get that over the edge. Let's take that in. Come back over here. Let's get that little split line that we talked about earlier. There it is. Some reset material here. Let's do that. Let's just that in place. Get that in place. Come back to that center line, drop that valley in. So we can see we're going to go with this guy. Now we're going to put some tone in here. Let's kind of get back in, just put this little valley here. I'm going to take that right out. A bit of recess. One more pass, just going to bring it around the corner. Let's get a little bit of weight change over here. Let's bring this in and focus it. Let's take that around the bend. And again, notice real lucid, quick sketches. Let's get the banding in place here. And again, same thing on this end. Real quick, let's put a bit of tone in this thing. Take that away. Put that in place. Let's put a little of this in place. Let's get some little graphics in this thing now. Let's start putting just a little bit of this into it. Just take it through. Nice and clean. Let's do this. A little bit of tone in here. Let's get a bit of marker added to this guy. Star Destroyer watch. Let's put a little of this tone just to kind of get a little bit of a surface break in through here. Let's take that right on through. One more pass here. Get a little more tone in this thing. Kind of stain it in, keep it nice and consistent. Go across that path there. Come back and add a little bit of detail as we go back through it here. Once we get this tone in place, it'd be great. There it is. A little bit of reflective quality. We got to put more pressure into it. Get a little more of that accent into it. A little more touch of it. There it is. And there it is. Just a little bit more screen time in there. Now notice that thing just came together very quickly. It's a nice series of putting a really quick little aspect together. And let's go back in and begin a bit more definition. Let's go back in, add a little bit of this. Let's come across and pick up where that hot spot is. That sound system of some sort. Let that go into place here. Come across right down the line here. A little bit of highlight inside that seam. Take it through. And again, just a little more scrub in here. Let's put a little bit more into this, just across the top. And I'm going to show you a little trick here with a Weaver pad that'll give you a really nice soft effect. when you come through the process here. It almost looks like an airbrush. I'm going to take this pad and just kind of dust in a little bit of a change. Look at that, how that just kind of softens that whole form right off. Just a little more effort into it. And there it is. And then just a simple little, almost like a ghosting of the shape itself to make that thing to read a little bit better, so it doesn't become so overly powerful here. Let's go back and get this a little bit more definition through here, a little deeper. A little change of pace in here, a little more animation. Let that little drive line in place. Let's see if we can keep this guy. And there it is. Bring it around the corner and then release it. It's a bit more hot spot in through here. And again over here. And a little more of that banding system. Let's put a little bit of tone in this thing too. Let's take that little bit of color accent in the actual strap. This little sketch here is just kind of nice and free. Bring that in. Bring this in. Come back over the top, just some more definition in here. It's gonna get that kind of soften off just a bit more. There we are. And there it is. And add just a little more definition. Maybe it's a bit of a soul line in here. So just going back in and drawing details as we go through this thing. There it is. Come on the inside. Almost like a little French seam soul line in here. Hey, Starship Captain. Hey, how you doing, Starship? Man, is it good to have you on board again? Good to see you. I've been thinking about you an awful lot here, so thanks for joining in, man. Fantastic. Fantastic. Super. Thank you so much. Doing a little study here on just some really quick little watch fascia graphics that we started last week, Nemo, and I just wanted to come back and do a bit of perspective detail work on where we were with some of these sketches. Let me go back just for a moment here. This is where we were last week, for example, just some of the fascia graphics and putting some of this element. And notice this variation in theme is about right in through here. So we did a whole series of little plan view studies last week, Captain Nemo, and went through a series of variations in ball. Let me just grab here for a moment, ballpoint pen. Went through a bunch of these guys. Second phase, just some really quick little plan view elements going in here and go here. And the last one we did was just, again, variations on theme. And the whole purpose there, Nemo and the rest of the gang, was simply this. Just really wanted to take a look at getting away from conventional horizontals and verticals, rectangulars or rounds or squares. Some of the faces out there now, for example, in watch design, pretty static in terms of where the expectation is. Now they're getting more elaborate now with materials, but I just wanted to take a look at maybe changing the shape of the architecture or the form itself and taking it from there. So that's where we were, Nemo, with the stream we did last Thursday. Now today we're just taking some of those concepts and putting it into perspective. So once again, let's go back in here and just add a little bit more detail. Let's put more color in this thing, a little more contrast, take it away from the light source, and back into that little fillet, and bring it all forward. A little bit more direction. And again, the nice thing about this Rebro pad is you can begin to soften it off and give it a lot more texture. And then sometimes just adding some little details or accents in certain areas along the watch face itself. Maybe something underneath here, just banding it just a bit more. It's a little more information. And again, there's a little thumbnail sketch on maybe an overhead view of how this process might work. Spaceship-like. Yeah, it's almost, it does have a spaceship-like character to it. So let me gather these pencils up, and we'll just kind of resharpen a couple of them here and keep on going. In addition to that, once you get into a process like this, you can start to look at, for example, what begins to happen when you take a look at some of this stuff. Maybe now another variation, and there's this. Maybe you raise this portion. You come back out of it. Do a little thumbnail here. It's just real quick. Keep that pretty solid. There was an elevation there, just a bit of a change. And again, inside this, a little bit of shadow on this thing as it comes around that little raised area. Comes back into that. Maybe this has a little bit of definition to it up on top. More compass-like, maybe that comes in. Maybe this gets a little rounder in through here. And you got that little spike that comes in and doesn't fall out and does that. It's gonna be kind of neat. A little change of pace here. Let's get a little bit of shadow underneath this thing. Now let's get this body side in place. Same overall effect. Into the center line, drop it just a bit. And then using that same approach, put a little bit of marker in this thing, and let's see what happens with this guy. A little separation here. Let's come back in through here. We get that guy to come around the bend. A little bit of stain in here. in just a bit. A little bit of reflective quality. A little bit of that disc up on top. Let's go back in and do a little bit of tone in this thing now. Same process. A little bit of line weight change. Bring that into play. Let's get that break in place. No, it's just working with the surfaces. Breaking that in. Take this around the bend. A little softness in that radius. There it is. Done. Out of that. Bring that into play. Again, let's put a bit of tone across the top of this thing and let that come into play with this Webro pad that we talked about earlier. It's going to use that pad to soften some things up a little bit and just kind of airbrush it in. It just takes the whole thing, takes the purse, taking a little bit of the curse off of some of the weights, for example, in the lead, and just opens it up and just softens it off just a little bit to give us a little more definition. So there you are. We'll take that band underneath here. Let's put a little graphics on top of this thing, so it sits on top of that. There's a shadow being cast on top of that band over that study. And there it is. Let's go to this. And let's get a little bit more of this, a little bit of texture inside this thing. There's a compass quadrant, some sort, and there it is. And back down below with a little bit of this, adding a little bit of graphics to it. Then we'll come back in again with a little bit some breathing holes here. There's some speaker system on the end here. Maybe it's 1, 2, 3, and 4 of them. 5 down to, and then just breaking it down to that. Again, just real quick little loose sketches on just banding systems and how it all comes together. Just very quick, rapid sketches. I think what I was getting at here is to take some of this, excuse me, just once again, take some of these patterns we developed earlier in the actual overview and just plan views and convert them into perspective to see what the shapes are doing. So there we go. I'll keep that handy just for a moment here. Pardon me as I sharpen the stick. And we'll keep on moving here. So there's one. Let's put that aside. We'll come back to it in a moment. And another one we're working at here is just getting more of a rectangular band system to it. That's almost like this guy here, for example. I think we're looking at, the possibility of looking at something like that. What that might look like in a perspective format of some sort. So how's it going so far, gang? Is this making sense for us? Just want to keep them nice and easy, put a little more perspective in place, and see what we've got. Let's go back through and just start sketching these guys. Go through it. Get this line closest to me. Just going to beef them up a little bit. And take it around the corner and lose it. A little bit of depth to it. Starting to pick up the line weights. All of a sudden, look how the power of that sketch is starting to come together here for us. Let's kind of put a little bit of slotting in through here. And again, let's get this down. A little change of pace in through here. Now let's get that accent in place here. Draw through it, pick an intersection, come across the watch face itself, take that into place. Now let's put a little tone in here through. Let's just put a little bit of section just to kind of get that to work with that. We'll soften that off just a bit. Let's take that back into the form itself. Working right back into the surface. Again, let's get this guy. I'm going to sharpen this guy just a bit here. Take that little bit of highlight right across this guy. Got a little radius in here. take that right across and bring that through. That helps to define it. Let's take this guy, come over, and break it. Start to put that band together. There it is there. Let's get this section to work. A little recess in this. And just draw it through. And the pencil do the work for me here. A little bit of band work. And that strap just kind of walk away. There it is. Then underneath. There's the overall form. Very quickly come together there, folks. I hope this is making sense for you. Hope you can notice what the real goal is here. Again, it's a follow through with what you're doing with these guys. It's the same kind of setup. You go through a series of real quick bursts and you kind of define some shapes. You kind of go in and define some things and keep things pretty open. But even when you go into perspective, it's still that same process of being extremely lucid and quick with these guys. So let's kind of put this a little bit of tone in this thing. Let's take that right around the bend. Let's get that little bit of that shadow, a bit of the highlight in there. I'll come back to that and deliver that in just a moment. Work to tone that in. Tone that in. A little bit of highlight in between. A bit of reflected light in there. I'm going to change the character of that guy just a bit. And let's kind of do this. Let's kind of go back in here. And that's going to get this guy sharpened up a little bit here. A little more definition in these. Maybe a speaker system of some sort. Just kind of let that float across the top of the band. The actual face itself. Let's put a bit of tone in this thing too. Just kind of take it away. Yeah, let's just fill that in just a bit. Just get that all set. And we'll use that Webro pad just a moment to kind of define some things for us here. Let's kind of get a little bit sharper radius in through here. Let's get that to work through. That'll work out pretty nice. A little bit more of a fillet. A little more definition in that radius area there. There it is up on top. Take that on through. And again, let that far side line just kind of disappear. Run through that. Let's take this guy. Put a bit of time band in this thing. Probably going to sharpen this guy, get a little crisper with it. Put a little bit of that in place. Let's get a little bit of some graphics in this guy. Into that, and just for what it's worth, add a little more definition in through here. Let's get a bit more graphics in this band here. And there it is, a little study. Again, a little quick pencil sketch here. It looks like a Star Trek communicator. Hey, did Doc hear the sound this time? No, I did not. Unfortunately, I did not hear that thing come in with a sub piece there, shadow. So hopefully that'll work out. Let's see if we can get that thing resolved. Did not hear it again, so sorry about that. Let's go a little bit of this. Let's put a bit of that softness into it here. Look how that just takes some really curse off of the lead itself and just kind of softens it. That's a nice little effect, just to kind of a little bit of airbrush to it. And there we are. So it's interesting. Hey, Shadow, how are you, man? Good to see you here, Chief. Yeah, we didn't hear that thing come through again here.
Hey, Nemo.
Nemo.
We wanted to make sure that his sound was working here.
Yeah, we're going to test it just a bit here.
Okay,
Hey, there it is.
You can hear it.
Yeah, good deal.
All right, well, we fixed it now.
I just subscribed to myself. All right.
It works? Okay, good.
Hey, very good.
Yeah,
we can thanks, Shadow. That really helps. Thanks. It works.
Yeah, we'll turn that up a little bit. We might have actually been talking when I was happening.
Oh, yeah, very good. Hey, thanks very much.
Thanks for the support, guys.
Thanks, Shadow. It's nice to have this guy next door. He's an absolute genius. Hey, I'm glad that worked, Shadow. That's great. Nemo, thanks again. I really appreciate it. Great watch. Well, it's just fun to put it together. And Nemo, there's been a lot of conversation. I'm sure you're aware of it too. Some really neat things in terms of what watches are doing are interesting, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of real estate here to do some really interesting things that change the character or the paradigm of what we wear on our wrist. I mean, I've got this now; it's a more rectangular shape. It's very much of a very traditional watch, but I mean, there's some experimental stuff here going on with materials, and yeah, doing it live. It's true. Shadow, thanks again. It was great to have you pop by and make that come together for us here. So just neat stuff all the way around, guys. And again, Nemo, thanks so much for the subscription. I really appreciate it. So let's carry on here just for a moment. I've got a little thumbnail sketch, a little variation on the theme down below. Let's kind of go back in and just kind of sketch this through. Let's take this in. Let's get that main band, that basic bone line in place and get that all established. Let's get that all set up here. Take that through. Let's get that radius in place. Just a little pencil study here. Just real quick sketches. Let's get this thing across. Let's elevate this thing. Take that through. Take that through. Let's just change that up just a bit here. Let's kind of get a little more romance in this form here. There it is. Again, real quick. Let's get the radius in place here. Tone it. Bring it around. Bring it around. Again, just variation on the theme here. Let's take this right through. Again, a little bit more line weight in this thing. Thick and thin. Take that on through. Bring it around. Let's get that tone in place here first. This is where it gets to be interesting. Let's take that right through the watch. Graphic break. Another variation here. Just kind of stain the surfaces in very quickly, but at the same time, a little bit more distinction here. Just going to take that across the radius itself into the highlight and just take that right through the shape. There it is. There it is. Let's get a little more depth in this corner here. Thank you for your patience. There it is, and there it is. Now a little bit of reflective quality here. And let's put a little more zip in this thing. Let's do this. Let's get that watch band set. That's where the band is going to be. Let's bring that out of it just a touch. A little bit of line change in here. Take that across the actual band itself. Let's go back and patch a little bit more of this hot spot up on top here. A bit of weight change. And a little bit of weight change here. As it comes at me, really hit it. And again, pick up a little bit more of that fillet up on top here. Let's kind of bring that through. Just going to pull that on through. Get that a little bit more pronounced. Take that edge and put that little highlight, that shadow in there so we kind of know where that step off is. And again, a bit of highlight here. Let's just kind of get this guy some a little bit more punch. Let's put that little concept across it. There it is, front edge. Take it around the bend here. And again, let's put this into context. And pardon me here. So a little bit of tone. And again, maybe a little bit of texture work back in through here. And there could be a little bit of sound. And there it is. It's just some fun stuff. Just looking at basic shapes overall. And I hope this is making sense. As I said again, let me know what you think here. So far, so good. Making sense. Real rapid. Again, notice if the two concepts are together, just side by side, really getting into some really very differently dramatic looking shapes. But again, trying to keep that same spontaneity in the sketches, trying to keep it very, very lucid, trying to be very exploratory at the same time. Even though we've got some definitive things to work with, we're still keeping the overall concept very, very loose. So there's 1 and 2. Let's kind of put those. Let's go into the third study here. A little more traditional. Maybe we go back. Yeah, just this guy right here. But I kind of looked at this thing as being a little bit. It's not as exploratory, but it's kind of unique in a sense. Nice looking page. Hey, thanks very much, David. It's fun stuff to work with here. Just really good composition work. Just again, I laid in some background ahead of time to just kind of save a little bit of time and space here. But thank you, David. It's good to have you on board, Doctor. Going back to this guy here, what does it look like in perspective? It's much more of a bezel approach. It's much more chamfered and not as lucid or round. So let's look at that thing does here. Let's put it off to one side and let's go back in there and just start looking at the sketches. Let's kind of get this down here. Pardon me again. Let's sharpen it up a little bit. Go through here. Get these guys in place. Let's come back in through here. Get that section on the inside. Let's kind of open this up. Get that hexagon to work for us, or variation on the theme thereof. Let's go back in here and get this. And get this, that little section there. Let's break that back. Break that back just a bit. Let's get a little bit of recess in here too. Let's drop it into that little bit of a contour or valley. Let's take that into place. And then lose it right there. Again, a little bit of tone here, kind of show where the recess is. Take that across the actual shape itself. And let it fade into a light source on the extreme right-hand side of the watch itself. There's a little bit of drop in there. A little bit of change of pace here. Maybe just a sneak of this coming out of that corner just to give a little more depth to it. There it is in there. And let's just take that line right through. Let's get this in place now. A bit of a banding device. Let's take this guy, get that bezel in place. And how are we going to chamfer this? No problem. There it is. And back into that little option here. Tone this into place. Oops. Get that to come down. On the far side of that chamfer, a little bit deeper. And again, into the light source again. Now let's put a little more heat to this thing. Let's get this kind of read just a little bit more boldly. And there it is. A little more contour. Put a little bit of tone in the center here. That guy, we know we're going with this guy. Where the readouts are going to be. Right down the pike here with this thing. And the banding device. Let's get that in place and sharpen the stick a little bit. A little more definition in through here so we know where we're going with this guy. Now, let's see, we've got this. Resets. And again, just a little more definition in these corners. As it moves away, pick it up again over here. Again over here, let it disappear. Pick it up just a bit. Oops, sorry, I'm drifting away here. There we are. Hey. Definition. Now let's go back in there and really hit this thing. And there's a little quick study on just that overall plan view shape here. Let's put a little bit of time in this thing. Again, there's a quick little study here. Let's just put more tone in this band so it's not so bland looking here. More definition, there it is. More definition into that. And just take it out just a bit. And just add a little bit of soul line definition. That'll make a big difference, I think. And just gonna get some texture in this guy. Oh. And there you are, a couple little pieces there. That's that darker. To be really honest, this design looks a bit too flat, but it may be just the perspective that you use. It might look better with a more extreme perspective distortion, moving the vanishing point. Yeah, that could be kind of neat too. It just opens it up. But maybe this will help too. And then it'll show us in elevation. It's a pretty flat system here, but we go through this process and do this. What we don't see is this. Maybe that'll help get some of the weights in place here. And then what we're talking about, this will maybe help to kind of solidify what we're looking at here. There's a break line. And again, another break line, just some really quick little sketches here to kind of get that thing to scream a little bit more for us. And then, pardon me, I'll let that band come out underneath there, and there it is. And then there it is. That's basically the elevation we're looking at there. Nemo, does that help? or even 1-point perspective. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it could be. I just want to get. I'm going to really show those bevel sections in there, Nemo. So you're right. It's a little bit flat-looking system, but again, putting a little bit of an elevation to it really, I think, helped to kind of pin that down just a bit. So that was good input, Starship. Thanks very much. Really interesting. It was already reading your mind. Yeah, very good. Let's see. Yeah, right. Let's see what we've got here. Starship. The other timepieces look more defined. Yeah, they are. They're much more defined. This is probably a little more of a stranger approach to it, a little bit flatter, and maybe not as glamorous as some of the other forms we've developed here. But I think I just took a chance to see what it might look like in perspective, where we actually begin to see what it looks like. So it's not as unique. Absolutely. So let's go back here, and there it is. Let me just do this for a moment. Bring this guy back. Oh, pardon me. Bring this guy back for a little bit. That's that guy, and then we're just going to do the same here. So there we are, 2 and 3. Got them all put together. Those guys I'll put back in the stack and review them as we go through the lineup here. And last but not least, I thought we'd take a look at something that's pretty interesting in terms of almost doing like a cluster piece. Like very, very cool, rather UFO-like. Yeah, it's just another approach here. Maybe doing some pretty interesting graphics in terms of maybe a cluster automotive piece. Or so let's kind of do this. Yeah, let's do this. I'm going to put this in a transfer in just a moment here. A little bit of perspective started on this guy. Just a look, maybe just a single little might be added here. Maybe there's something that's off to the tangent off to one side that might look like that. And then we'll add another one over here. So I'll keep it asymmetrical for the time being. Let's go back in and just get this guy lined up. Let's go to this one place. Now let's put that thing. That's just basically primary the first Mach 5. This is it. Yeah, here we go. We'll come back and let's put this into some sort of context here. Let's kind of do this. Yeah. A little more detail here, a little more texture in this shadow portion here. Let's get this in place here. A little bit of dust in this guy. Take this back to a little more an automotive character to it. Just a little bit of a cluster graphic. There it is. Comes in off of that. It comes in off of that. Let's get a bit of this shoulder a little deeper. Take that out of context here. Let's put this in place. And there it is. Let's put a little section in this thing now. And just a little bit of graphics put into place there. And there you are. So wouldn't mind if there was a Coca-Cola logo on it. Yeah. There you go. Just sharpen the stick up a little bit here, guys. It's got a little bit more definition in this thing. And again, it's been a little bit of dust in this thing. That's just a plan view there. A little bit of perspective, taking that wheel pen and just softening it off just a little bit. And there you are. Just a neat little thing. I mean, that's a pretty elaborate little setup there, but just a little tri-piece in terms of just nice. Left gauge is odometer and the right one is oxygen. Yeah, that could be it. That's cool, Nemo. Well done. Now, just for to kind of finish it up here, this is what we've got in terms of just going through and what these forms might look like in elevation. There it is. That's that. It comes down to this. Comes underneath. Again, that little companion piece does that. Comes out underneath. Drops down to that. And there's the underbelly of the watch itself. It's a little bit of tone in this thing. And the banding device, a little elevation there, what that thing might look like in the other contour. What do you think, gang? So far, so good? I mean, there's pretty conclusive. That's a neat perspective. Yeah, I think that does it probably a little bit more so than this flat hexagonal piece here that we worked on a little earlier. Mio was right. I just got to bring the view up a little bit on that guy. It almost appears I need to get a little more of this underbody in place here, but I just want to get this feel for what this texture change might look like in this guy. And of course, this cluster piece is interesting too. That was almost very automotive looking. So we could maybe shrink that a little bit. That could end up, for example, being a little more unique in terms of getting that really put together for us. But again, we can kind of bring these in a little tighter like we did here. That might be a bad idea. Let's see what it looks like as we do this. Let's get that into place. Let's put that into place. That's a little bit more, yeah, just kind of hug that in just a little bit more like so. That's kind of neat. And drop that circle a little bit. Drop that circle a little bit. Let's see what that does. Just a little bit of tone in this thing. And get your opinion, guys. What do you think? Dashboard on your wrist. You got it. Yeah, there you go. It interrupts it a little bit. That's not too bad, is it? And it gives you a little bit more of a sense of just being a little more compact. It's supposed to be so spread out on your wrist. Not bad. So we kind of put some crosshairs in this thing. Let's just kind of put a little bit of detail to this thing here for what it's worth. There we are. This is my cross section here. There it is there. This is my rev counter and so on. And then this could be just a timepiece. And some additional information in here. That could be interesting. I mean, just another approach here from what we're looking at here. And again, it all predicated on the fact that, let's go back and review here for a moment, all predicated on the fact that last week we did some interesting things with some plan view studies on watch graphics. That, well, some of these might be kind of fun to put back into perspective. So let me just do this for a moment. And there we are. Let's kind of line these up as we go. We'll go right down the line and kind of review them where we are here. So we started with the process here. This is sketch number 1, came out of a couple little pieces that we've done here. That guy started out its life, I think it's right here, yeah. Just looking at this, for example, and we can dig this out of place here. That's where that one came from in terms of overall content. It was more like this, a little bit more refined, this guy, and maybe a combination of that guy. In that first was, I would totally wear it. Then I can get another cap on before running. There you go. Let's kind of move this over just a little bit. There we are. Relationship one to the other. That little sketch right there was interesting to me last week. We put that Thursday, and then we kind of converted that into perspective. So that was the first study we did in today's little stream, putting it in perspective. The second one we kind of picked up on this theme here. And let's kind of bring this into play. We just kind of took this theme and read in through here and said, what would that look like if we put that in a perspective? A little bit more tailored. Oh, let's move this up just so you can see them. There they are. So there it is in a plan view study, and there it is in perspective. So we did that, a little bit of that to get that all set up and take a look at it just from a theme point of view. And then let's go back here for the third one here. Let's go back. We did this. And the same page, we had this going on with that very octagonal piece, and you're right, Nemo. I think this guy, I'd go back in again, maybe just it's almost flat in terms of presentation. This view helped a little bit. Maybe I just got to tip it up a little bit, and you can see more body in the sketch itself. That'll be a good approach to take on next go around. But that was the inspiration for this study. This kind of little themes here, and went back into perspective there. And then last but not least, the one we just completed is more of this cluster graphic. Timepiece was done. I mean, reach across here, pardon me. And there it is. And then that guy was done, generated on, let's see, this kind of reversible a little bit here. So that guy came out of that storyline right there. So pretty good cross-section of different shapes and forms about getting into looking at wristwatch conceptual design, and a lot of little things to kind of take care of. But I just thought, again, today, it was really interesting to me last Thursday that we did some things that were kind of interesting in the plan view, and let's see what they look like in perspective, just to give a little more form and some shape to them. So that was the purpose of today's stream, and really great to have you guys on board. Nemo, you don't know how much I appreciate you having you on board. It's great. Good to hear from you. I'm glad you're doing well. Hope your family is well. And David, thank you for taking the time if you're still there. And Brad, if you look at it earlier, hope you get some feedback on this thing. So really appreciate it, guys. And of course, Shadow coming in and saving the day with the sound system was terrific on the dashboard period. So really appreciate the time here, gang, today. And as I said, it was an early day for me because I've got some travel plans to take care of tomorrow. I've been invited out to Corvettes of Carlisle to do some presentation work. Every year I send out a series of original Corvette concept sketch work to be auctioned off for a very great foundation called the Amadeliosis Foundation, and I would go out there and make a presentation with the group, and that's been really been an interesting thing last year. We did a lot of neat things with it this year. Again, hopefully I'll be part of that, making that presentation. So that's why I'm going on today live, and I didn't want to miss a week here without doing something here throughout the course of the day. So today was a Wednesday differential. Next Thursday, I think it's going to be interesting to do some, pardon me, next Tuesday when we get back back on board, we're going to do some neat things with the Shadow Man. We did a project back in, I think it was June, late June, mid-June, on a Monte Carlo series. It was a whole new process of putting together a really some nice work today, Corvette gigs. Yeah, it is. It's going to be fun, David. So thank you very much. It was a lot of fun today putting this piece together. But as a result of next Tuesday, we're going to open up. We did a whole portfolio of this stuff in this Manticore piece. It was a really interesting process. We did 3 presentations live in Shadow Studio, and out of that, we developed a series of three distinct pieces of Manticore pieces. It was one in flight and attack, one on the landing platform, and one as a variation of like a drop ship. So we're going to take a little time on Tuesday to go through the whole portfolio and begin to pick out things that you guys like. So we're going to give you plenty of time to look into the schedule. That'll take place next Tuesday at 2 o'clock, hopefully, here in the studio. So I'm looking forward to having you join us again. Next Tuesday, next week I'll be back on a normal schedule. So thank you very much for your patience today. Great to have you on board. And again, cannot thank you enough for taking the time. And please visit my website at drcontrast.com. If you have any interest in some drawing pieces of 9 lessons, they're really a captivating little process of creating ideas. Also, drop me a note at jim@drcontrast.com. I'd love to hear from you about what you want to work on and what you'd like to have me see but potentially work on. I'd be more than happy to oblige if I can. And great stuff. And Nemo, thank you so much. And I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. I know you've been a very busy man, so I hope all is well with you and your family and everything got resolved from last summer, or this year especially. What you went through with your family matter. So really cool. And David, thank you so much. Brad, Shadow, always a pleasure to have you on board to come in. It's a good thing you're next door, man. Save the day again, obviously. So all the best to you guys. Drop me a line. Stay tuned. Visit drcontrast.com. And I always sign off with this because I think it's really important. Never forget to remember to dare to be great, because you are. Great job, gang. Thank you so much. Take care, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Matter of